Come on. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Akam. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and boy, do we have a lot of breaking news this morning. And I'm going to argue that it may not even be the end to the government shutdown that is the biggest news for us here in New York. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We do have a little bit here about Epstein. I know that's getting a lot of coverage. Bruce Blakeman in the news, disrupting in a way Stefanik's run. I don't quite understand this, but we're going to dissect it. If we have the opportunity, there's a lot of glowing pieces about one Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom is now being considered the front runner for the Democrat Party in 2028. So we'll perhaps get an opportunity to talk about that. But first, being reported, and we're going to dive more in depth this morning in a little bit, but great news, at least temporarily. New York has agreed to delay All Electric Buildings Act in a court filing. Attorneys for the state agreed in a stipulation filed in federal court Wednesday to delay the implementation of the law until an appellate court makes its decision in the case. So this is not a permanent delay, but makes, at least looks like, a step in the right direction. According to, and we're going to dissect this more, but according to the Times Union, I know we've covered this so much, so extensively, with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, which later in the month, and I don't have my calendar open, but later in the month, the Assemblyman and I are going to do basically a whole hour segment, at least, well, with, about 45 minutes, just on what is happening on energy policy, because very often we get sidetracked with other topics, which is a good thing, but I can tell by the passion that so many of you have to learn more about these failed energy policies in New York State, that perhaps it's worth doing a full show, essentially an hour of it, with the Assemblyman on energy. But we'll continue with what the Times Union had to say. New York has agreed to delay implementation of the All Electric Buildings Act, which was scheduled to go into effect in January. And what that would have done would prohibit natural gas, heating oil, we talked about propane, and many new construction projects, including residences. And when they say many, it was pretty much all. Anything under 7 stories. Yes, hospitals, I believe, were exempt. It was obviously a reliability factor and a safety factor why they would allow hospitals to still have natural gas, which goes to show what they think about you when it comes to reliability and when it comes to safety. And keep in mind, we've talked about it a million times, the grid is not prepared for this. So now they have put at least a temporary delay on it. Attorneys for the state agreed in a stipulation filed in the U.S. District Court in Albany to suspend regulation of the law's implementation until an appellate court makes its decision in the case. Yes, thank you for the viewer who commented. They said good morning. Well, good morning to you. Yes, that's what we were just talking about. The appellate court's going to listen to the New York gas ban case. Thank you for that. The appellate court, the Second Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, has not yet filed the case to its calendar, or has not yet added the case to its calendar, but has allowed the groups that brought the lawsuit to expedite the appeal. Filings are due by late December. Now, the law was scheduled to take effect at the beginning of January. So essentially, if you did not have some type of, and remember, we read that piece from Quoting Natural Gas, have some type of, and I've heard some differences on this, but some type of existing building. Now, whether that meant you had to have it constructed, whether that meant it went through the kind of the planning stage, was a little bit questionable. So essentially, if you look at it, it was all over by now. You couldn't have had natural gas in your home in time. So yes, it was supposed to take effect in January for new buildings that are 7 stories or shorter. Pardon me. The same requirement would take effect for all other new buildings in 2029 with limited exceptions. The lawsuit was filed 2 years ago by a series of trade groups and labor unions, including the New York State Builders Association, National Association of Home Builders, New York Propane Gas Association, and at least 4 labor unions that represent workers in the construction industry. They contend the state law is preempted by the Federal Emergency Policy and Conservation Act, and is therefore unenforceable. They said in the lawsuit, and again, all of this, we talked about this with Joe Sempolinski. Was it last week or the week before? It's really interesting because we have been talking about this for as long as the program has been on the air here and even with its predecessor on the radio, but it still sneaks up on you. Albany has a fantastic way of doing that where they kind of virtue signal, where they come out and say, hey, look, we've saved the planet, we've saved the world, you're welcome. And then the clock ticks. And next thing you know, we're dealing with something that, again, the grid could not handle. You're talking about exorbitant costs, extra costs on new homes at a time when Albany says they're focused on affordable housing. The nation's energy policy cannot be dictated by state and local governments, such a patchwork approach would be the antithesis of a national energy policy. Further, millions of New Yorkers use natural gas, propane, and oil for home heating, cooking, and hot water, particularly in the coldest winter months, and the decision to outright prohibit the use of all fuel gas, even propane, in new buildings is at odds with citizens and businesses' need for reliable, resilient, and affordable energy. Now, you have heard my thoughts on this, and I don't think it's hyperbole to say with this decision, during the very cold winter months, especially if we had a historic cold or historic snow, it would lead to death. And that is not too shocking to say. I think it would be inevitable with power going down, and then you have think of how many times you've lost power, and it hasn't disrupted your life too much, but now you're talking about there's nothing you can do, from eating to heating your home, absolutely nothing. And I know we hear from viewers all the time that live in more rural areas that will say that they've lost their power for days sometimes. Now, the group contends that the law would also exacerbate New York's continuing housing crisis, as I just mentioned, by making new construction less feasible and attractive for developers. And I would also add that think of if you're a business and you can say, it's going to cost me a lot more to place a building in New York, or I could go right across the border to, let's say, Pennsylvania and do it for much cheaper with less regulations in this way. Why wouldn't they build elsewhere? Governor Hochul's spokesperson, Ken Lovett, said the governor remains committed to all electric buildings law and believes this action will help the state defend it, as well as reduce regulatory uncertainty for developers during this period of litigation. So we'll keep a close eye on it. I have some other pieces that we will get to here later on in the program, but that is the breaking news this morning, and that was through the Climate Act back in 2019. But this is a major story, especially for those who are a regular viewer, to frankly speaking, that New York has agreed to delay the All-Electric Buildings Act in court filing. So I know this sounds kind of wild, but if you were thinking of building anytime soon, you may want to rush, because who knows what the ultimate decision will be. But if you can at least get something started where you can have the natural gas, where you can have the propane or heating oil or whatever you so choose, which is the way it should be, it's not too late. It's not too late for your residency, your business, any of your buildings under 7 feet tall. Also yesterday, of course, late last night, Trump signed a funding bill to end the historic 43-day government shutdown. Trump saying at the Oval Office, "It's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again." The president blasted the extremist Democrats for shutting down the government, accusing them of attempting to extort American taxpayers. This cost the country $1.5 trillion. It is interesting. They kept trying to say, this was about affordable health care, more affordable Obamacare, and that it was Republicans. This is the media and the left. It was Republicans trying to make the American people suffer in some way. But then when a deal is reached, they're very upset at Democrats for quote-unquote caving. So what was it? Did you want to fund the government? Did you want people to be able to have SNAP benefits and not starve? Did you want to have the discussion about Obamacare? Or was it just all for show? I think we know the answer. Donald Trump calling it purely for political reasons. Trump re-upped his demand for Senate Republicans to terminate the filibuster so that this would never happen again, and called for the massive amount of federal funding for Obamacare to be paid directly to the people of our country so that they can buy their own health care. In a 222 to 209 vote, the House voted to pass the funding bill it received from the Senate, which will restart paychecks for federal workers and air traffic controllers and fund food assistance programs. The legislation finally reopens the government, restores critical services, and puts an end to the needless hardship Democrats have inflicted on the country, said the GOP House Appropriations Committee Chair Tom Cole. We feel very relieved tonight, said Speaker Johnson. The Democratic shutdown is finally over thanks to House and Senate Republicans who stood together to get this job done. He slammed Democrats for using the American people as leverage in this political game, arguing that the outcome was totally foreseeable. It's something that is very difficult to forgive, describing the shutdown stunt as utterly pointless and foolish. Now, House Democrats lamented that their Senate Democrat colleagues caved with nothing to show for it on health care. Representative Rosa DeLauro saying, I rise in opposition to this bill that does nothing, not one thing to address the Republican health care crisis amid a cost of living crisis. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, who has been getting some pushback on this, some criticism, he proclaimed the fight is not over. Yes, there's already speculation that it'll lead to another government shutdown at the beginning of January. But he said there are only two ways that this night will end. Either Republicans may decide to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits this year, or the American people will throw Republicans out of their jobs next year and end the speakership of Donald J. Trump once and for all. The legislation will return federal workers to their jobs with back pay, reopen executive branch agencies that provide critical veterans services and other benefits like food stamps, and fully fund the government until at least January 30th. After that, some spending for SNAP benefits, veterans programs, legislative branch activities, and military construction, among other items, will continue until September 30th, at which point the 2026 fiscal year ends. So there you are. There are two major updates. We're going to talk more. We're going to hear about the government shutdown ending. We're going to hear from our Representative Nick Langworthy on it. He has released a statement, see what he has to say, what some of the talking heads had to say. It does look... And it's not me saying it, it's Democrats saying it, that because of the Senate, that they caved, they got nothing from it. They do not seem happy. It has caused many to question the leadership of Chuck Schumer, calling for his ouster. There a lot about Chuck Schumer, actually. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. But there you are. 43 days, government shutdown, over in the blink of an eye. All right, stay with us. We'll read your comments. We'll check your text because I'm on a different page here. All of that and much more. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hasselson's is more than just your local hot tub and swimming pool store. Did you know Hasselson's carries Oakley, Costa, and Maui Jim sunglasses? Hasselson's also carries Luminox watches certified by the U.S. Navy SEALs. Hasselson's has a new all-in-one metal ridge wallets, easy to carry and easy to use. Hasselson's also carries card accessories, suspenders, leather belts, wallets, and dog toys. Hasselson's also has over 400 styles of men's and ladies' work and western boots and hikers. Stop in today and see why after 70 years it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hasselson's.
Dear First Place, experts agree Toyota value can't be beat. Drivers agree Toyota quality rides long and strong. Add hybrid choices like no other, and you'll win the long game by a country mile. Toyota.
Grab Black Friday savings now until December 1st. Lease a new RAV4 with all-wheel drive for just $289 a month. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
Can you help me? We're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard them, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at organdonor.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We are talking a lot of news this morning with the end of the government shutdown, with New York agreeing to delay all electric buildings acts. We got some comments here. Let's get right to them. And I apologize to the viewer that I said that's what I was talking about right then. That's why I try not to read them live on the air, because I didn't read yours in depth. So let's get to that. Just so you know, that appellate court that's going to listen to the New York gas ban case has in the past shut down a similar mandate in New York City. Not that now, that was a while ago, so I don't know if the makeup of the court is the same, but I wouldn't count on them overturning New York's gas ban. And then, thank you for the correction. I understand if you've got a building permit by December 30th to 2025 to put gas in 2026, you would have been exempt. That's how the law read. The only reason I said there was confusion over that is because I saw some people in the industry suggesting or wording it almost differently, and then I had heard early on there was from some people involved with the discussion of this that there was something about like something had to be already started. But I think I've heard other people say exactly like you did, and you read the law, so I do appreciate that. I'm not questioning you. I just know that there was confusion over that, okay? A comment from that same viewer. That's another reason I disagree with Nick Langworthy trying to push new legislation. It's already there. It was a federal case. The federal government... It's already there. It was a federal case. The federal government could have appealed at any time. But yet Nick says we need new legislation. Yeah, right. Like D.C. moves real fast. Not to mention the law already existed. Again, you must have a building permit in your hand by December 30th if you want to put gas in new construction in 2026. Thank you very much. As I said, I can't necessarily read the comments as I go, so I wasn't ignoring what you had to say. So I appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Obamacare was implemented how long ago? Democrats have controlled the government for how long? How long does it take to get it right? Great point. And finally, Mark writes in, good morning, Frank, and I say good morning, Mark. I swear that politicians and governors are watching your show. I just mentioned last week that Hochul would lose votes to natural gas voters, and voila, she caves on all electric. Thank you, Mark. I think they do watch. I think there's just too many coincidences to not think, at least in the back of your mind, that perhaps some of them watch. A couple of quick updates before we get into the stories and kind of dissect more about the government shutdown, more about the New York delay in all electric buildings act. Boy, in New York State, we got a lot about New York State. I don't think we'll focus too much on Mamdani today, but I can't quite figure out Bruce Blakeman. Bruce Blakeman had all this time to decide to run for governor while Elise Stefanik had not announced. Then the elections happened. We knew Elise was going to announce one way or the other then. But because Bruce Blakeman won his executive race in Nassau County, now he's got, in his mind, momentum, and he's going to tour around upstate to, quote, kind of get a feel for a run for governor. This is now after Stefanik already announced, so it's getting a little messy on that part. I don't think at the end of the day it really leads to anything. It's just an unnecessary distraction. But again, we'll dissect that even more. But your thoughts on that? Now, polling shows that Bruce Blakeman, if there were a primary, which we really hope there is not, that would lead to Bruce Blakeman being destroyed by Elise Stefanik, if you believe the polls. So it's worth mentioning. But yeah, just a weird distraction, an unnecessary distraction, taking away from what has really been a lot of great momentum for Elise Stefanik. A lot of coverage, A lot of support. That's the other thing. A lot of support from county executives, from Republican leaders, from Ed Cox himself, the chair, whatever you think of the job he's doing, the chair of the New York State Republican Party. So just interesting. We'll take a little bit of a look at it later on. Okay. Very disturbing. A plane carrying 4 members of Congress to Washington, D.C. to vote on ending the government shutdown was diverted due to a disruptive passenger who later declared to fellow flyers, quote, "We live in a fascist state." Representative Greg Stanton, a Democrat from Arizona, posted on X on Tuesday that the American Airlines flight carrying him, along with Republican representatives Ellie Crane, Andy Biggs, and Paul Gozer, were forced to make an emergency stop in Kansas City after an unruly passenger caused a disturbance following takeoff. Sounds like, and it does not give any specific, because it sounds like it could have been a political disturbance, a kind of random No Kings rally on the plane, I guess. I don't want to go into all the details about the flight. You don't need to know all about that. But as police led the passenger off the plane, she is heard apologizing to her fellow flyers and left with a parting message, quote, "We live in a fascist state." Scary scenario there. Oh, hey, I know we've talked not a lot about this, but there's been a lot of strong opinions on it, and that is the $2,000 tariff check that Trump is proposing. Now, this seems very early, but almost in the works. I know a lot of people have asked me questions about it. Some really looking forward to a $2,000 check. Others saying, is this really going to happen? I thought tariffs were to pay down our debt. Well, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent revealed that the Trump administration has discussed restricting the president's proposed $2,000 tariff dividends to families making less than 6 figures. That seems fair. Well, there's a lot of options here that the president's taking about a $2,000 rebate and those that would be for families making less than, say, $100,000. We haven't, Bessent clarified when asked if the Trump administration decided on that limit. It's in discussion. Last week, following a brutal hearing over his tariffs before the Supreme Court, President Trump floated a $2,000 dividend, but did not elaborate on specifics or how that would work. And we know he's talked about a dividend in the past, even going back. Well, that wasn't about tariffs, was it? Elon Musk pushing it for Doge. But Bessent later told ABC this week that the dividend could come in a lot of forms, and that it could be just the tax decreases that we're seeing. That's a reference to tax cuts included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that was signed into law earlier this year. The Treasury Secretary reiterated yesterday that what we did with the tax bill is actually financing the president's no tax and tips, overtime, Social Security, and the big refunds you're going to see are a result of that. He also pointed to the so-called Trump accounts nestled in the marquee mega law in which the U.S. government will automatically open up an account for children under the age of 18 between 2025 and 2028 and contribute a one-time $1,000 deposit to those accounts. So that's kind of an update, not an update. I don't know how you want to look at that. But there could be income limits, which if they are going to do a tariff check, a $2,000 tariff check, I think that's a very smart idea. I'm not sure, like many of you, where I stand on the tariff check. There was a piece yesterday that we didn't get a chance to get to at the New York Post that had a very good point that let's not keep giving this quote-unquote free money away. Not that this isn't coming from tariffs, so it's completely different than kind of just the fabricated money out of nowhere by the Biden administration during COVID and like that. Not necessarily, just putting us more in debt, causing the inflation that we're still seeing. That was because of those giveaways. But the idea is it creates that mindset where Mama Donnie can propose free government money essentially on any pet project, which we know it doesn't work that way. We know, again, Biden's policy has led to this high inflation with this outrageous spending. Whether it's, I'm trying to think of, it was the COVID Relief Act, I believe, it was Inflation Relief Act, and then there were quite a few more where we were just throwing money after money. And the problem is that creates this mindset where a socialist mindset. Why isn't everything paid for? Why aren't I receiving more money all the time? So was their and I kind of butchered their whole great piece of the Post, but that was their mindset. No more quote unquote free money. All right, as one last we got to take a break. Got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Your Social Security disability claim has been denied, and you don't understand why. Your physical or emotional problems make it impossible for you to work. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Don't give up. Together, we'll file your appeal to give you the best chance to win the benefits you deserve.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton, toll free 1-800-698-0567.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the Southern Tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's get to some viewer comments. Recall, Governor Hochul mentioned she was going to look at this a couple of weeks ago, and that was in reference to the All-Electric Buildings Act, which now New York has agreed to delay. That was the signal right there, because she knows she is facing strong opposition next election with Stefanik, and I think strong opposition from her own party when she has a primary challenger from her lieutenant governor, yes. And there could be, again, my thought that there could be a far-left candidate that jumps in, a la Mamdani, that kind of takes that Democrat Socialist of America run and I don't know, the wind at their back, and tries to defeat Hochul. Continuing, though, that this viewer says, and of course she might have had an inside bit of information that this lawsuit was coming, and that was her off-ramp without caving to the radical left. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. How about no tax on 401k ever? But if they do give the $2,000, at least it goes back into the economy. Thank you very much. And finally, a comment from a different viewer. I'm retired and don't have to file taxes, though I do collect Social Security. My question is, will people who conform to this scenario be getting a $2,000 check? Any information regarding this? So in full fairness, there is very little information about this whatsoever. We will keep you updated on that, but that's why even now Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is saying that this is just a very beginning of the discussion, why he says there could be income tax limits, but that's not even necessarily coming from Trump himself. So this is way too early on to get into kind of the technicalities of it. But as soon as we know, as soon as there, and again, this isn't a done deal either. This was talks from Trump, but it's been talks that have happened a few times. So again, we're being cautious. We don't have that information. I don't think anybody has that information, even behind the scenes at the White House. But as it nears, if it does happen, we will make sure to get you all that information. All right. Where do I want to go from here? Okay. We can talk more about, not more, we have in the past a lot, but the Epstein scenario. The White House is very upset. They're furious over this because they believe what the House Democrats released was kind of a bait and switch, kind of a very misleading bit of information. They released just 3 select emails. Again, this is the House Democrats yesterday, in which Epstein mentioned President Trump, including one claiming, quote, victim 1 spent many hours at my house with him. Sorry, I lost a piece that I didn't mean to start with that, and I'm getting out of order here. And I had something more about this vote, because there is going to be that vote. Yeah, well, I'll find it. I just got too much to talk with you about, and that what a great problem to have. Sorry. The Democrats on the House Oversight Committee deliberately withheld the name of the victim in those emails, blocking it out, and that was Virginia Giuffre, who said before her death earlier this year that she witnessed no wrongdoing from Trump during their interactions. So what they're suggesting is that this is, again, bait and switch, that this was deliberately done to mislead. Media outlets jumped on the limited document release anyway, led by the New York Times and CNN, which appeared to have gotten a sneak peek at the messages. Surprise, surprise. House Republicans and the Trump White House quickly fired back. Carolyn Leavitt saying the Democrats selectively leaked emails to the liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear President Trump. The unnamed victim referenced in these emails is the late Virginia Giuffre, who repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier to her in their limited interaction. These stories are nothing more than bad faith efforts to distract from President Trump's historic accomplishments, and any American with common sense sees right through the hoax and clear distraction from the government opening back up again. And that's where many people are pointing to, that this was done in a way to take some of the heat off Democrats right now, as the media and their constituents believe that they, quote unquote, caved on the government shutdown. And we talked about the government shutdown earlier. We are going to talk more in depth about that because I've got some great quotes, and that's coming up here in just a little bit. All right. I don't know what I do with that piece. So there you are. Among the 21 Dems on the House Oversight Committee are ranking member Robert Garcia, vice ranking member, hey, here's a name, Jasmine Crockett, and Ro Khanna. Republicans on the Oversight Committee released the full trove of 20,000 documents. They also included a slew of correspondence about former President Bill Clinton and emails between Epstein and journalist Michael Wolff. It's interesting to note that when you go to CNN, if you read between the lines, it'll say don't quote me on the number, but the 9 takeaways from Trump's name being mentioned in the emails. But nothing of the 20,000 documents Republicans released, and nothing specifically about President Bill Clinton. But Bill Clinton's always gotten a free pass on this. This is why we've said on the program numerous times, if they're going to release the documents, why wouldn't they have done it before Trump got in office? Why wouldn't they have done it to try to hurt his campaign? It never made any sense. Biden had the power to release them. You had past presidents have the power to release them. I did finally find that piece. It ties in. Johnson says that the House will vote next week on the push to compel the DOJ to release all of its Epstein files. He would put the contentious bill compelling the release of all the Justice Department's Jeffrey Epstein case files to a vote on the House floor next week, earlier than expected. We're going to put that on the floor for full vote when we get back next week. In the meantime, I'll remind everyone that the House Oversight Committee has been working around the clock on its own investigation. Johnson was required to soon put the bill from Representatives Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna on the floor after the pair successfully deployed an arcane tool in the chamber known as a discharge petition, but he has some levy to do so. had some levity to do so. It's a weird way of putting it. The Republican leader suggested that he would move more quickly than expected to put the bill before the full House, and that's a reflection of the growing sense of agitation among members of his party on Capitol Hill. Is there this growing frustration? See, the people that they quote in all these articles are the Thomas Masseys and the people that have had no problem kind of going against the president numerous times. So I'm really, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's been doing that now. So I'm not really sure if there's growing frustration. I mean, what's the and I'm fine with if they're going to vote on it next week. I'm not saying it like that, but to suggest something bigger, that's shocking. And it must mean that there's too much party infighting. Again, to me, and President Trump said it himself yesterday, this seems like a deflection, a distraction from the government shutdown. We're going to talk about that. We have so much that we're getting to this morning. Stay with us. We're running a little bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
There's a lot going on at all three Blaze, Alexander, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram stores. Let's check them out. Look, someone in Mansfield's getting a new Jeep Wrangler. A Grand Cherokee in State College. And here in Lewisburg, a new Ram truck to tow all the toys. And don't forget, we have the lowest price guaranteed.
This is a Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing that keeps us focused.
A habit we never skip to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game, to drown out that self-doubt and support your mental health? Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and your mental health.
Discover the resources that you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. If you are just joining us, the breaking story this morning, not just that the government shutdown has ended, but also that New York has agreed to delay the All-Electric Buildings Act in a court filing. Again, we're going to talk more about that here in just a little bit. We're running late, and I know some people may be running late as well. I don't want them to miss that bit of information because I don't think you're going to see it too many other places. Okay, so as I mentioned, President Trump said Wednesday the Democrats are reintroducing the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to distract from the government shutdown and other issues they're performing on poorly. He issued a response via Truth Social shortly after White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt pressed reporters to ask Democrat lawmakers why they redacted the name of Virginia Giuffre in one of several Epstein emails released Wednesday. She noted that the Giuffre, who committed suicide in April and once worked at Mar-a-Lago, said that Trump couldn't have been friendlier to her in her recently released book, Nobody's Girl. The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax because, again, because They'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall for this trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country, while at the same time putting many at risk, and they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflection to Epstein or anything else. And any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. In other words, the Democrats are using Jeffrey Epstein's hoax to try and deflect from their massive failures, in particular, their most recent one, the shutdown. Levitt responded moments later saying these emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong, and that President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not going to get into the very nitty-gritty of it, the weeds of it, of Epstein. You can do that for yourself at any time or ask any questions you'd like. But you can tell by the way it's worded at CNN, the fact that the name was redacted, that only 3 emails were released when 20,000 were released by Republicans. You can tell this was, in my opinion, that this was done, especially with the timing, to distract from the government shutdown and the failure. And it's not me saying it. It's the Democrats themselves saying that it was a failure. The whole 43 days to then just cave with no real concessions. So I can understand why people are frustrated, but this is used to kind of calm that frustration within their own base, the calls for the ouster of Chuck Schumer and things like that. So we can talk more about it, but I'd rather get to the government shutdown a little more in depth, and then we have a lot of New York State issues as well. President Trump signing legislation last night to fund the government again. Oh, just because I mentioned Chuck Schumer, I don't want to jump around. I do want to get to the government shutdown. Do I? Which order do I want to go here? Because we have so much breaking news this morning. But let's just change up real quick. On CNN's The Lead, yesterday, Governor-elect Mickey Sherrill from New Jersey said that older Democratic lawmakers who are standing in the way of fighting for the American people needed to, quote, consider stepping aside. Who could they be talking about? Jake Tapper said many of the notable victories last week, we should also note, belong to candidates younger than me, like you, and like Abigail Spanberger, and like Zohran Mamdani. We also saw your colleagues in the House, Nancy Pelosi, announced her retirement. You were outspoken a year ago in calling on then-President Biden to step aside and not seek re-election. You were the 9th House Democrat to make that call. Do you think it's time for other Democratic older lawmakers to think about moving away for a new generation of leaders? This is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, what Jake Tapper's doing to tell Democrats to start pushing more on Chuck Schumer and others to get out. They want to see the more radicalized, like a Mamdani, younger candidates get in there into leadership positions. Well, Sherrill said, well, certainly, I think if people are standing in the way of fighting for the American people, it's time to consider stepping aside. I mean, right now we have a crisis on our hands in so many different levels. And if you can't meet with grit and determination, then it's time to step down. And so as I look to the future, I look to this new generation of leaders that we are seeing step up in the Democrat Party that we saw on Tuesday, how compelling these leaders are to voters. And it takes a lot of work and energy. I was speaking to thousands of voters about affordability and about what it was going to take for them to be really successful, about what it was going to take to grow opportunities. And that's why we were able to communicate so effectively, to take bold action, to say on day one, I'm declaring a state of emergency on utility costs. This isn't kind of the old ideas of we're going to work on a 10-year plan. This is right now, at this moment, people want to see leadership that takes on the crisis and meets the moment. And that's what I want to see in the Democrat Party. There's got to be just an extreme frustration if you're a common everyday Democrat, because you were told the last Tuesday's elections were probably the biggest elections of all time. Even though it was blue states going to blue states and these type of things, it was a bellwether. It's the end of MAGA. It's the end of Trump. This was just the biggest win for Democrats, probably the end of the Republican Party as we know it. And we all took a kind of step back on this program and said that's got to ignore the complete landslide by Republicans last year. And even with the wins last Tuesday, the the Republicans still have the House, the Senate, and the White House. So again, I know what the media does. I wasn't surprised by it. I understand that they were hyping it up. If it would have went the other way, they would have said it meant nothing. So it doesn't. They were looking for kind of the end of MAGA. So anyway, that happens, and then you have the 9 senators that quote unquote cave. That's their words, not mine. Taking all that steam out of a talking point that they've been using, that they were going to have all these wins. So they do that. There's got to be frustration and desperation mode. So I understand why they're calling for the ouster of some of their quote-unquote old leadership. But having said that, that will lead into a story that we have about Chuck Schumer, because he's, without saying his name, he's the glaring example of who they're talking about. As Nancy Pelosi retires, Chuck Schumer, who has been criticized going back a full year about how he's handling the quote-unquote resistance against Trump. Well, Schumer's facing headaches in New York as the headaches in Washington mount. The Senate Minority Leader has a much ballyhooed streak of visiting all 62 New York counties each year. He's at 30 in 2025. Doesn't look like he's going to make it. But this is like why he canceled his book tour. He realized he was going to receive more protests, not from the right, protests from his own party. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's omnipresence in the New York State politics has been his calling card for the past 3 decades until now. The senior senator has delivered hundreds of college commencement addresses over the years and made countless cameos at everything from parades to road races to strangers' barbecues. Locally, nothing has defined his brand more than a 26-year streak of annual visits to each of the state's 62 counties. But Schumer has been largely absent of late. He's only made official visits to 30 of the 57 counties outside of New York City as Thanksgiving nears, and he toned down his presence on the commencement address circuit this spring. Yeah, I would say colleges are probably not the friendliest place for Chuck Schumer right now. The senator has also been anything but a kingmaker in a changing state Democratic Party, notably opting out of endorsing Mom Donnie in a race that drove turnout to levels not seen since the 60s. Just something to keep in mind. He sees the writing on the wall, still trying to save it. Will he be able to? On that note, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Since 2013, Valley City Insurance Services has been your hometown insurance provider. We're small enough to give you the attention you deserve, but large enough to provide you with access to the nation's top insurance companies. The staff at Valicenti Insurance Services will help you find the right plan for your individual needs, whether it's auto and home insurance, life insurance, health insurance, or business coverage. Valicenti Insurance Services, Water Street in Elmira. Visit us at valicentiins.com.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking the Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, almost said news. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. If you are just joining us, New York has agreed to delay the All-Electric Buildings Act in a court filing. That is major news, especially if anybody was thinking of opening a business, building a business. building a home. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We have a couple of quick updates. The government shutdown has ended, so we'll mention that as well. And some other New York State issues. Wow, we have so much we can talk about. Okay, where do you want to go from here? You tell me. We could talk more about Epstein. There is quite a bit here about Gavin Newsom, because we talk about the old leadership. As I mentioned, Chuck Schumer is kind of staying surprisingly quiet. We can talk about that generation. It's very much why Mom Donnie won in New York City over Andrew Cuomo. There's a younger group coming in, a younger generation. That was when you used generation. Then there is the kind of old guard. And Chuck Schumer right now is under a lot of heat. Now, keep in mind, he did not vote to open the government. He was not one of the Democrats to cross the aisle. Remember when crossing the aisle was the greatest thing you could do? Why is that only the case when it's a Republican that crosses the aisle? I mean, it secured John McCain a nickname, Maverick, right? And look what they did to him when he decided to run for president. But isn't it interesting that it's only heroic to reach across the aisle when it is a Republican doing so and bad-mouthing his or her party and being a fly in the ointment? But when it's the other way around, they say it caved, they're sellouts, a lot of anger at those senators, a lot of anger at Chuck Schumer because he is the leader there. And so that's why you're starting to see pieces like that in Politico, casting doubt about his ability still to lead. If he's not hitting all the counties, not doing what he normally did, is he scared? And we know the ultimate dream for those in the media, if she doesn't run for president, would be the AOC primaries Chuck Schumer and defeats him here in New York. That is how angry they are at the government opening back up and giving people their SNAP benefits and like that. It was a weird dichotomy of what they said when the government was closed and what they say now that it is open. But with Trump signing the bill late last night, putting the end to the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, Trump signaled Monday the government would open soon. Remember, we talked about that. But the bill keeps funding the government at the same levels during fiscal year 2025 through January 30th. So again, nothing has changed from before the government shutdown started. That's all the Republicans ever asked, was to keep the funding at the same rate. Democrats refused to do so and throw in, they wanted a $1.5 trillion giveaway to keep the government funded. And at the end of the day, when the smoke cleared, what had changed? Nothing. And that's why I understand the Democrats' frustration with their own party. The reopening of the government comes after more than 40 days of a lapse in funding, as we are aware. The deal came as fallout from the shutdown came to a head, including travel disruptions at U.S. airports, of course, leading into Thanksgiving. But that is one that will still take a little time to kind of clear up. The standoff between Republicans and Democrats originated over disagreements about various health care provisions. Again, we don't have to go through that kind of history. Speaker Johnson, we had some of those points earlier on at the New York Post, some of the comments that were made. We're going to hear from Congressman Nick Langworthy, what he had to say about it. We're going to hear what Speaker Johnson had to say about it. We got to take another short break, and then we're going to wrap up. Wait do you see? I got to show you something in the next segment. Wait do you see this? I got a nice birthday gift, and I think you're really going to like it. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Sundays, NFL coverage starts with Fox NFL Kickoff at 11.
This is great TV.
It is caught! Then it's Fox NFL Sunday at noon.
This kid has it all.
The best NFL pregame shows are back-to-back. Only
the Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I got to show you this great gift from our good friends to Frankly Speaking, Brian and Chris. They ran across this, and they thought of me, and it'll be great for my birthday. It'll be great for Halloween. Let me see if I can get that perfectly. How's that for a shirt? Frankenstein. I was gonna wear it, but I don't think it would have showed up on camera. It would have just looked like it said Frank. Yeah. So, but thank you so much for that amazing gift. Always fun to open up a birthday present. Which, before people text belated birthday, it was earlier this week. But it's always nice to open one at work. You guys are the best. Thank you very much. So important to the show. So thank you, Brian and Chris, for that amazing gift. All right, some viewer comments. Frank, did you see that Ithaca elected a self-avowed communist to the city council? Yes, we talked about this the other day quickly. I mean, it's not a surprise because it's Ithaca, right? But it was a 20-year-old avowed communist, not hiding it, not like Mom Donnie, who went socialist, Democrat Socialist of America. This young lady went right for communist and did win. Yeah, now on the city council. Comment from a different viewer. This viewer's wife said the real reason that they changed the ruling on the natural gas was because the impact on downstate and New York City. Interesting. And further, a viewer says, the delay on telling people how to build a house is smoke and mirrors. This needs to be stopped for good. I agree. If this delay is just to get kind of the pressure off of Governor Hochul for the election, she knows this is going to be a major issue. It snuck up on people, but when they started to read the letters from their providers, when they started seeing it more in the news, which I know we've been covering it for years, it should have been covered for years, but now that the date is coming up, that's when people start to get outraged. So does Governor Hochul read the writing on the wall and say, hey, let's delay this at least until after election, just like she did with the congestion pricing, just like she's done so many times, sending checks right before. She has these little tricks. Cuomo did it. She's just not as good at it, but she's trying to steal his style. And here's one where she realizes she has a tough opponent on her hand with Lee Stefanik, who we are going to talk about a little bit later on. We're going to wrap up our discussion on the government shutdown in the next hour. Then we're going to talk more about the New York puts off implementing the law that would ban natural gas in new homes and buildings. That's a major breaking story. If you have any opinion on that, that's going to lead into Stefanik. It's going to lead into some other New York State issues. And then we have a couple of things to wrap up next hour with as well that are just kind of breaking news but hard to categorize. So again, thank you for all the comments, for all the waves. Thank you again for the amazing shirt. Well, I'll show it one more time. I think I got a kick out of it. I laughed pretty hard when I saw it. Frankenstein. We'll be wearing that next Halloween. I'm already ready. Okay. When we're handing out candy here on Marcus Street. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We'll be right back with hour number 2 after this.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org
Is this your mom?
Yes.
And that's your dad?
Nope.
I'm the father.
Even if you're the father, you're lying. My family does not like my boyfriend.
Solid family.
I've had enough of this. I'm not your mommy.
Now you're just talking crazy.
Don't do that. I'm not your auntie, I'm your mother.
Can't cross mama and come in here and get treated nice. Your case is dismissed and so are you.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And we've got a lot to get to. We're going to dive into the New York agreement to delay All Electric Buildings Act. We're going to talk about that, but I want to wrap up our discussion on the government shutdown. Let's go through some viewer comments. After the government was reopened, Speaker Johnson made an excellent on-point speech. Did you happen to see it? Yeah, I read the transcript. I believe I saw some of it and I have it here, okay? So we'll get to that in a little bit. But if not, if it's a different speech, let me know. Coming from a different viewer, still owe you a cigar? No, you don't. But thank you. But I will take one, but you don't owe me one. Comment from a different viewer. Just what Ithaca needs. Yes, and that's in reference to the 20-year-old communist that was elected to city council. And, oh, hey, a quick announcement before we talk government shutdown. Did you see that Toyota opened its U.S. battery plant? The Japanese automaker declared its $14 billion North Carolina battery-making facility opened yesterday, pledging an additional $10 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing over the next 5 years as it hits the gas on its strategy to sell hybrid cars. I've got to say, well, let's just look at it when we talk about the All Electric Buildings Act. It's decisions like that from Albany and specifically Governor Hochul. North Carolina would have, or Toyota would have never considered New York. I mean, I know that's just a sidebar, and you know that. That's such an easy statement to make. I'm not saying anything brilliant. I'm just saying, you look at $14 billion being invested in North Carolina, and you think, with so many of these rules and regulations and lack of freedom and high taxes, we miss on so many opportunities. Do you think Toyota ever even considered New York for that battery plant? I'm guessing we weren't even on the long list, let alone the short list. Speaker Johnson accused top Democrats of holding higher priority for their positions in office than hungry Americans after the House of Representatives voted to reopen the government. He was on Hannity last night. He said Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are from New York. They needed to get political cover because the Marxists are taking over the Democrat Party, especially in their states. They were more afraid of political retribution from the radicals that now run the Democratic Party than they were afraid about taking the food out of the mouths of hungry families. The long national nightmare is finally over, the speaker said. The Democrat shutdown was finally put down by the Republicans tonight. We all stood together. We did exactly what we told the American people we would do. He said it was a selfish political stunt on the behalf of Democrats. It yielded nothing but pain for the American people, and I think it's going to be a long time before they forget this. Johnson said none of Democrats' radical demands were met in the legislation. We didn't give them anything, any of their radical, crazy demands. I think the good won out tonight, and it was long overdue. He said Trump bent over backwards to support Americans affected by the shutdown and expressed confidence the administration will continue those efforts. You'll see that same level of fervor. The entire cabinet, the entire administration is going to work around the clock to get the government open and operational again as quickly as possible. Our Congressman, Nick Langworthy, who we heard from yesterday, but it was from a press conference on Veterans Day where he talked about the government shutdown. He released a statement last night after speaking on the House floor. So after the vote, which finished at 222 to 209, he said after 45 days of needless hardship, the Schumer shutdown has finally come to an end, thanks to congressional Republicans and a handful of common sense Democrats. For 6 weeks, Senate Democrats chose to play politics instead of governing, taking food off of people's tables, grounding flights, and withholding paychecks from those who serve our country. Democrats' vote tonight to once again keep the government closed is further proof this was never about budgets or priorities. It was about power. Democrats gleefully used Americans as pawns for political leverage, while VA employees, border agents, and Coast Guard members missed paychecks while still serving. Families relying on SNAP and WIC were left wondering how to feed their children, and air traffic controllers were stretched to the brink. Tonight, we restored order, reopened government, and put the country first. But the American people should never forget the hypocrisy or cruelty that was inflicted on them by every Democrat who voted to initiate the shutdown and keep it going. Their shameful political performance will forever be etched in the history books. So thank you to Congressman Nick Langworthy for sending along that statement. Now, the DCCC chair, Democrat Representative Susan Dalbean, responded to a question about the government shutdown and was it worth it? I mean, that's going to be a question a lot of Democrats are going to be asked. Was it worth it? Because what did you accomplish after the 43 days? What was really done other than making the American people suffer? And like Chuck Schumer said, that was essentially good optics for them. So again, I asked the question, was it all worth it? Dalbean said standing up for the American people is absolutely worth it. Folks are struggling with the skyrocketing costs that have happened under the policies of this administration and Republicans. They want folks who are going to stand up to lower costs. And Republicans promised to lower costs on day one. It's been a big broken promise. And now they are creating skyrocketing healthcare costs across the country. We could come together to address these costs, keep the government open, support programs that help the American people. But Republicans aren't interested in that. They're just blindly loyal to Donald Trump. She argued that Republicans put us in a situation, they shut down the government. Put them in a situation. So they created this concern about Obamacare. Not saying that they didn't have real concern, just saying that the Obamacare subsidies were going to end at the end of the year. So why make something that happened back in October the focal point of that issue? But again, think of the misstatement there. That it was Republicans' fault that health care costs are rising. Obamacare was completely created by Democrats, completely voted on by Democrats. Not a Republican voted for it. And these subsidies were done by Democrats during COVID, and they're about to end when they had the chance to extend them the last go around when they were in power. So none of this is on Republicans, and that's what they banked on, that the media would push. That this misleading message, this political talking point, they banked on the media covering that in that way, and they tried. It did not work this time. It fell flat. So at the end of the day, she says the shutdown and standing up was worth it, but that somehow it was all the GOP's fault. How was the government shutdown the GOP's fault? That is what I don't understand. You know, I know a lot of people on social media, a lot in the media tried to mislead you, tried to confuse you and say, well, hey, you know Republicans have the majority. Why is the government shut down? Because they realized from day one the optics were bad. So they had to mislead you to think that it was Republicans' fault once they'd already dug that ditch. And, of course, they continued to keep digging. James Carville even argued that Democrats didn't have a real end game for this shutdown. James Carville said Tuesday the Democrats didn't have a real end game with their government shutdown strategy, but argued no one in the party should be mad with each other. I can see why they would be mad. I mean, think for a moment if the shoe was on the other foot and Republicans had done it this way. I think after a big win on Tuesday, at least if you listen to the media, it was the biggest win ever for Democrats. And then you have 9 senators cave, change the whole kind of talking points, takes the wind out of the sails. I don't know. But he was on CNN's program with Jim Acosta. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Former CNN host Jim Acosta has a show on Substack to discuss lessons learned from the government shutdown. Acosta noted that President Trump said during a Fox News interview this week that Republicans broke Chuck Schumer. Carville said, first of all, the lesson is everything that everybody says is true. There was not a real end game plan here. It was a simple legislative maneuvering that we didn't do that well on. There were a couple of points, and also the 8 senators who decided to reopen the government. Everything they say is true. Did I say 9 senators earlier? I apologize. I meant 8. The 8 senators in the Democrat caucus who voted with the GOP on a deal to end the shutdown have taken heat from members of their own party. and Schumer as well. Carville said, and this is just one of those things, that I'm not mad at anybody on the Democrat side, and no one on the Democrat side should be mad at anybody else on the Democrat side. He urged Democrats and others to vent all they want about the decision to cave. After that, he said, you should shut up and move on. So when you're in a coalition, you have a different tension within the coalition. And when you negotiate with a cult and understand that is what the Republican Party is today, it's a cult, you are at a severe disadvantage. Again, wasn't there Republicans from the beginning that was bucking Trump, Massey and others, Paul? Carville said Democrats have a you're not the boss of me attitude that differentiates the party from the GOP. Really? He argued that if it were a Republican, he would have sided with the Democrats on extending the Obamacare subsidies because it's going to really hurt key voters. I can just say the Democrats held me hostage. The Democrats, I think they had an exit ramp here, and now they shut that exit ramp down, and there's no interstate that goes into infinity. I actually thought politically the best decision Republicans could have made was claim that the Democrats are political terrorists, but we're going to vote for this, and they would have been out of the trap. But they hate Obamacare so much, it's irrational. Carville speculated someone on the Democrat side thought that this was too good of a deal for them to pass. Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have criticized the deal, and we know that Schumer did not vote with those 8 Democrats to end the shutdown. So that's a little bit about the government shutdown. We have a lot of comments coming in. I realize now, yes, I see this one. The speech I saw was made from the podium, not on Hannity. Yes, I thought that was earlier in the program. I had read some of the quotes from Johnson from the podium, and I apologize. I thought that was a part of that article when I started reading it, and then I got down the rabbit hole, and I thought he did a good job on Hannity. So I didn't want to stop that discussion, but I realized that mid-sentence that was not the one that you were speaking of. I did see, again, most of the stuff I do is I watch or I read transcripts of the speeches in most scenarios because of the time frame to start the program. I did read a lot of that speech, quite a bit of it on the broadcast earlier this morning. So I do appreciate that. So I did not see the whole thing. You're saying it was amazing. I'll watch it a little bit later on this morning after the program. I appreciate that. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about New York putting off the implementation of the essentially a ban on natural gas, heating oil, and propane. Big delay, what it means. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano soon. I don't have the exact day in my calendar, but we talked about it recently to do a full program on the energy policies coming from Albany and coming from Governor Hochul. So he's an encyclopedia on this. He knows everything about it. So it'll be great to hear from him very soon. All right, keep those comments coming in. We'll read them in the next segment. There's a lot here. A lot to dissect. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. What a show we're having here. We welcome you back to the Hesselson studio as we broadcast live. So many comments coming in. Let's get right to them. Viewer writes in, what people fail to understand, you can delay whatever you want. A Democrat will still vote for a Democrat. Then when the bad stuff happens, again, they ask why. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Yeah, the speech I saw was made from the podium. Yep, I already addressed that. Thank you. Sorry about that. Comment from a different viewer. Do you know if it's true the deficit is down over $6 billion because of the tariffs? I can't remember what the total number was at. People are better with numbers than me. I know that there's huge savings. Scott Besant, I already threw that out. There was talks, and I know that the numbers that Trump is giving, but I've heard various numbers. I've heard various relief. Now the dividends, according to this one, if they did the $2,000 for each person, that would cost $600 billion per year, according to Committee for Responsible Federal Budget. So that's what, when I type that in, that's what everybody's saying, what it would cost to do. Again, that's the difference between that and like the Inflation Reduction Act, whatever that was called under Biden, is that money was going straight from debt to add to the national debt, causing this inflation. The difference here is it is money collected on tariffs. Again, I'm not saying I'm for it. I just think it's how they define it. So I have not heard the final numbers, but thank you for the question. Morning, Frank. Love the shirt. Well, thank you. If you're just joining us, got this great birthday shirt from our friends Brian and Chris Frankenstein. I thought it was a pretty cool shirt myself, and I appreciate them thinking of me. Really cool. Here's my take on this shutdown. You take a bottle from a baby, in this scenario, a.k.a. Democrats. They throw a tantrum because they didn't get what they want. So then they throw things, a.k.a. bring the Epstein stuff up again. They are just grown-up babies, Sergeant Dave. Thank you very much. It did seem like a tantrum that, unfortunately, caused a lot of people to suffer, caused a lot of major issues in this country. Comment from Mark. Governor Hochul's delay on all-electric homes is a delay to get votes. And it doesn't mean she will not start it back up after she wins. Beware of who you vote for. I agree. I think this is all for political reasons because the attorneys for the state, so the pro-electric mandate, they didn't even, they agreed totally with the stipulation filed in federal court Wednesday to delay the implementation. So she was reading the writing on the wall that at least Stefanik is no pushover. And remember how close Lee Zeldin came? Well, Stefanik is starting with bigger numbers and Zeldin had at the end better numbers than he had at the end. So I agree with you. It's all a political move. And we're going to get more into the details because I know people ask questions about are they voting on it. It's not a vote. This is a lawsuit. As indicated, New York puts off implementing law, but how long can it be put off? Well, that's a great question because we know, again, Hochul's got to worry about November. So how long is the delay? Hopefully, I think there's some more information on this. Okay. Comment from a different viewer, a little digressive history. James Carville, the Raging Cajun, married a Republican strategist. I wonder how that worked out. It actually worked out good. They're still married. Mary Madeline. They're still together. I know they always said that they would never do like political talk shows together because they would get too heated. So, but yeah, they're still together. All right, one last comment before we move on. At the end of Biden's term, they doled out $78 billion to DEI and diversity and climate change. Why didn't they fund it then? They knew Trump was coming. They could have easily extended and funded ACA credits, Affordable Care Act credits. That's a great, great point. I'll tell you why. They have no policies. They never have. Their only solution is power and money. Yeah, and they needed this. They saw this as something that they could, with the help of the media, sell to the people and convince them that they had to side with the Democrats. It did not work. The media does not have that power like they used to control the message and to dupe you. I mean, they still try, don't get me wrong, but to dupe you into believing their talking points. But let's get into the The All-Electric Building Act. Coming from Syracuse, New York State officials have agreed to suspend implementation of how about this? A revolutionary new rule that would ban natural gas or other fossil fuel equipment from all homes and buildings of 7 stories or less. Now, this was supposed to take effect on January 1st. We heard from a viewer to clarify that you had to have your building permits by essentially the end of December. A lot of people were starting to do the mad rush if they want, maybe a process they were already in the works thinking of, because it didn't sneak up on you. I'm not saying this cocky. It didn't sneak up on you if you watched this program, because we've talked about it for over 3 years and on its radio predecessor. We've been talking about it from the beginning of its implementation. But at that time, 2025, really 2026 seems so far away, as Albany is banking on. So they'll come out and say, hey, we saved the world. We're the best. We'll pat each other on the back and say, thank you. You're welcome to the voters that we just saved the world. And then they go away and they just let this slowly prepare to get implemented. And that's where we're at. That's why you saw over the last couple of weeks a lot of coverage of this on various news outlets, which is great. It finally received coverage. But as I said, it's something that you were very well aware of early on if you watched this program. So the agreement to suspend implementation was made in a federal court case brought by a coalition of builders association, gas equipment sellers, and others seeking to overturn the new law. The state attorney general's office agreed to a stipulation filed in court today that requires the state to suspend implementation until the court case is resolved. Some home builders and other critics of the law claim it could increase the cost of new housing, could claim it would. Of course it's going to cost more, and the grid is not ready for it. Buildings account, how about this for bias? Buildings account for nearly 1/3 of the state's greenhouse gases. Governor Hochul's office said the delay would reduce uncertainty stemming from the lawsuit, but that the governor still supports the move to electrify buildings. So yes, to so many viewers' point, it will probably be delayed till after the election, give or take. Let's see. I don't want to read Governor Hochul's exact quote, but I'm trying to see what the time frame is on this, because we heard that something needs to be filed by the end of December. The All-Electric Buildings Act of 2023 was passed to help New York meet the aggressive targets for greenhouse gas emissions set by the 2019 Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. So, as you know, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, that's what we've been talking about for the longest time. And then when this hit in 2023, it became a major focus on the program. But again, snuck up on so many people. Coalition of opponents to the all-electric mandate, including the State and National Builders Association, gas equipment dealers, etc., sued in federal court hoping to overturn the law. The group asked for a temporary injunction to block implementation of the rule while their appeal was heard. The stipulation filed resolved that matter and will prevent further litigation over whether an injunction should be ordered. According to the legal papers, the all-electric rule is suspended until 120 days. There we go. After a decision is reached in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, where it is being heard. Okay, assuming the rule is upheld. So, 120 days. I've got to believe Governor Hochul is hoping that it just gets delayed. I mean, this is going to be a major talking point in this race, because when people heard about it, again, if they weren't paying attention, when they heard about it, they were shocked. They were outraged. How could Albany do this? But that's what Albany is banking on. Republican Assembly Minority Leader Will Barclay said New Yorkers face enough burdens as it is, and removing natural gas, propane, and oil as heating options will only drive costs higher. Families can't afford another mandate that makes everyday life more expensive and less reliable. So again, it looks like 120 days out. Now, I'm no lawyer. Why does it always say this? Okay, who's this coming from? Spectrum. Moderate Democrats, State Assembly last month signed on to a letter. How many moderate Democrats are there in Albany? Okay. So there you are. That is your update on it. Now, this ties in with more issues on New York because, let's face it, this is one of many issues that Stefanik is going to be, and rightfully so, using against Governor Hochul. I don't understand this, and I know we have such brilliant viewers. What do you think about what Bruce Blakeman is doing? And again, I know it's not that far of a difference of topics, because we see this overreach in Albany. And we will talk with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano at some point about it. But Bruce Blakeman is going to stump in upstate New York as he weighs taking on Elise Stefanik in a GOP governor's race. This would be a disaster for Republicans, just so you know. And I know you know that it would bloody them both up. It would cost them money. Now, Stefanik has good money, but it needs to be focused on the general election. So it would cost money. It would be a mess before the general. I mean, Hochul is chomping at the bit, hoping that Bruce Blakeman makes that decision. We're going to talk about that when we come back, but feel free. I know there's so much passion out there, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that about the energy policies coming out of New York and the anger that was at the All-Electric Buildings Act. It's not over, but it was a major decision, one that could pass by people's radars if you're not paying attention to the right outlets. So that's why we focused a lot on it this morning, but we've got other New York State issues as well. If you want to talk about the government shutdown, feel free to weigh in. If you're new to the program, you see that number on the bottom of your screen. You can reach out at any time with your texts, your comments. You can leave a voicemail. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This is Jim from Famous Brands. We are ready for fall and loaded with all of your favorite brands. Great new deals are arriving every week. We have the largest selection of clothing and footwear in the Finger Lakes, all at below retail prices. Famous Brands, downtown Watkins Glen, where you're always looking good for less.
Hi, this is Itzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. My goodness, we've got, pardon me, so many comments coming in. I did not get a chance to go through all of them. So if you don't mind, I'm not ignoring you. I am just going to compile all of them, and we'll use the next segment to keep reading all of these amazing comments because there's so much going on. Hell no, I'll save them. I'm not going to even read one. I'm going to save them all, but there are some good ones in here. Okay, we're talking about New York State. So what I mentioned with Bruce Blakeman, and I'm not really sure what's happening. So he had all that time to get in the race when there was no one in the race, but he was focused on his executive race. So he wins his executive race in Nassau County, and now he believes he has the momentum to take on Stefanik, which I think any Republican would agree at this point that a primary would be disastrous, because a Republican has to focus on getting their name out there. And Stefanik already has name recognition, but still, never hurts to have more name recognition. She has to get her name out there, but more importantly, she has to win over voters and defeat Governor Hochul, not defeat somebody within her own party. But Bruce Blakeman is going to stump in upstate New York as he weighs taking on Stefanik. Again, where was this ahead of time? Now he feels he has more wiggle room because he won that executive's race. I'd be pretty upset, if I'm being honest, if I voted for him in the executive race and he instantly talks about getting a new job. If instantly says, oh, thanks for your vote, but I didn't take the executive job seriously. I'm focused on the governor now. Now, he's, I'm sure, banking on that would be a 4-year gap where people would forget. Blakeman, who won re-election by a convincing 12 points last week, will start his tour on his home turf in Massapequa, where he kicked off his campaign for executive, before heading up to the Hudson Valley and Albany. He'll then leap to the North Country, the home turf of Elise Stefanik, who has announced her bid to take on Governor Hochul. Blakeman said in a statement to the Post, "At the urging of many people around the state, I am heading up to the Hudson Valley, Capital District, and North Country in order to gauge the level of support for potential candidacy for governor. I would say if you're watching this program or if you are going to drive through here, I can tell you that there are a lot of comments from people that would not be happy with your decision, that they support Stefanik, and that has been the case from the beginning. But Blakeman said, I'm looking forward to meeting a diverse group of people and hearing from them now how we can best save New York. Blakeman would be the underdog if you saw that recent poll. And this is what I mean. What is he watching? Stefanik would trounce Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. There could be a little bit of that bubble effect. He's popular in Nassau County. He won his executive race by 12 points, but executive race is a lot different, of course, than a governor's race. But maybe he is now in that bubble surrounded by yes men and seeing the success they had last Tuesday and letting it go to his head. Because if you look at polling, Stefanik would receive 74% of Republican primary voters compared to 5% for the lesser-known Blakeman, and this survey conducted by JL Partners. The same poll found a competitive general election race for governor, with Hochul backed by 46% of voters to 43% for Stefanik. So again, JL Partners found that Stefanik was in the margin of error of victory over Hochul. Again, 46% for Hochul, 43% for Stefanik, and that is just coming off, a few days of her having announced that she is running for governor. That is great news for Stefanik. These polls have been pretty consistent for her. Now, in a Hochul-Blakeman matchup, Hochul leads by 11 points. 47 for Hochul, 36 for Blakeman. Stefanik, we know about her, has much higher name recognition than the Nassau executive and former Hempstead town councilman. More than 75% of the 400 Republican primary voters surveyed had a very favorable or somewhat favorable view of Stefanik, while less than 1/4 did not know her or had no opinion. In comparison, more than 75% did not know or have no opinion of Blakeman. I would argue that Blakeman, even from a show like this where people are politically in tuned, Blakeman is relatively unknown. I would say what he is known for is the potential to run for governor before when he had the opportunity and did not, meaning when Stefanik had not declared and Lawler had dropped out. But he wanted to win that executive race. The problem with that is, again, if you're in Nassau County, isn't that kind of a slap in the face if you just voted for him for executive? Stefanik seems to dominate the Republican vote. It's a done deal, said pollster James Johnson, co-founder of JL Partners. The pollster said Blakeman would have too steep of a hill to climb in a primary against Stefanik, and the money he would have to spend, the money she would have to spend, I don't understand his reasoning. I don't know if he's just trying to stay relevant or if he doesn't like Stefanik or if he does honestly think in that bubble that he could win governor. It's not the case. But when you have Stefanik, even the Hill reporting Stefanik in a 3-point race with Hochul within the margin of error, that is huge. So that's why we don't need the distraction of Blakeman. That's why so many Republican officials have gotten on board. We read that great message from Executive Chris Moss yesterday showing his support for Stefanik. That has been overwhelming by GOP chairmen and chairwomen. Support from Ed Cox, who is the chair of the New York State Republican Party. We've heard from so many people essentially endorsing her, supporting her, that I think if he would have stepped in earlier, we could have this discussion, maybe. But I think where we're at now, it's time to move on and focus on the job the people just elected you to do. All right, we got some other New York State issues. Again, if you are just joining us, a breaking story. New York agrees to delay all Electric Buildings Act in a court filing. We'll talk more about that because I see some viewer comments. We've been discussing that in the shutdown all morning, and we're so glad that you've joined us. So next segment is going to be a lot of comments, and we appreciate it. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This is a Sue the Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
You can just keep watching and scrolling, and the world will still feel like it's falling apart.
Widespread missile attacks. Highest hospitalization. Evacuation in the West.
Or you can take action by joining a movement that's creating real and lasting change instead. Partnering with communities around the globe to help uproot poverty and plant seeds of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Because at World Vision, we believe that no situation is hopeless. Join a movement that's changing the world for good.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And buckle up. We got a ton of comments from viewers. Really appreciate it. All right. Here we go. Ken writes in, the Democrats lost big due to them shutting down the government. They confirm that the only thing they care about is stopping Trump from helping the American people, regardless of who it hurts. They further confirm that most of them wanted to continue the pain for political reasons. By 39 senators and 206 representatives, they voted to continue the shutdown. One more thing the Democrats got for their efforts is the highlighting of the Biden administration spying on Republicans by allowing the affected Republicans to sue the government for $500,000 each. Thank you for mentioning that, Ken. That was in there. I received, and we talked about that on the show, and I received some comments from various people, and I haven't addressed it only because we had so much to cover on this program this morning. They're trying to spin that as calling it a political payout for these Republicans, but no, it's supposed to be about the Republicans that were affected by the spying on them. It was supposed to be a punishment for those that spied on them. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. But to see the spin put on that was pretty interesting. One that got a little bit of coverage. And like I said, some people on this program reached out to talk about it. All right. Comment from a different viewer. I'll tell you, Frank, it did sneak up on a lot of people. This is in reference to the All Electric Buildings Act. And the reason I mention it is because we talked about it so long on this program that when the news kind of started making the rounds recently, I think people said, whoa, I remember hearing about it 2-3 years ago, but now here it is, nipping at our heels. So this viewer writes, I'll tell you, Frank, it did sneak up on a lot of people because they weren't paying attention, including modular home and manufactured home dealers, because we looked at them. We looked, and when I told them this back in July, they were all ignorant, denying that it was happening. The builder told us nothing about it, and they would know, is what we were told. Now they're all scrambling. I don't know if it'll be delayed until after the election. If the appellate court rules in the state's favor, they will implement it immediately. Stefanik can use this whole talking point to destroy Hochul if it's delayed until the election. Stefanik can simply say it will be done away with. If I'm elected, we won't even have to worry about it anymore. Good point. Yeah, it did sneak up on a lot of people. And it was because, let's be honest, people have busy lives. They're not always focused. And don't think for a second, Albany's not banking on this. Albany knows you're probably not going to hear about it. You're not going to see it on the front page of the newspaper, on your Facebook feed about something that's going to be implemented 2 to 3 years later. But they can do at the time, hey, we saved the world. We're going to fix every problem by doing this all-electric building act. And then they move on. That gets some coverage. They move on. And then the only thing you have for 2 to 3 years are people like Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, Joe Sempolinsky, Chris Friend, Tom O'Mara, begging people to get prepared, to get ready for this, and giving us all the information on it, because this was a long time coming, especially other policies too, with the 2019 Climate Reduction Act, whatever it's called. But this was known. We talked about it on this program since day one. Phil Palmisano was talking about it, but it did sneak up on a lot of people. I've talked to people just anecdotally in my life that were looking at some type of project or involved in some type of project where we're very concerned. So to hear that, and you know, those manufacturers are looking for guidance, I'm sure, from people in their organizations, their associations, and I just don't think it was there. I think it was something that was buried for a reason. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Oh, Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Old Pete the Sneak doesn't allow a woman to oversee U.S. Navy SEAL Group. Word is she's more qualified than almost anyone. Taking orders from Donald, aren't you? Not cool, Pete. Looks like the Great War Ender might become the Great War Starter with Venezuela. Does that qualify you for a Nobel Peace Prize or any prize from a Cracker Jack box? I mean, we didn't end any wars, and Barack Obama he was droning down people left and right. So I don't know. I think it really, the only qualification you need for a Nobel Peace Prize is if it depends on what letter you have next to your name when you run for president. How's that? Hey, looks like Big Don used to spend the night over Epstein's place. Nah, you can't just mislead like that. This is all came out before. Come on. This is going to be quite a ride once they get, because that was such a biased way of putting that. Trying to mislead people. This is going to be quite a ride once they get all the Epstein files released. So like what was it, like 200,000 the Republicans released yesterday, but we're gonna focus on the 3 with redacted names that were misleading that the House Democrats released. Interesting how that works. This is why it's such a frustrating topic, meaning that I wish it would have came out when we first started hearing about the horrific details of Epstein. Going on, well, probably longer than 10 years, but when it really started making the national media a little before he died, and then, of course, that. So, yeah, sorry. I just would have liked to see more done. I know you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know you agree with that, Rick. We talked about in the past on this program that it should have been done before, but anyway. All right, we were talking about Bruce Blakeman. Where's Climate Bob when you need him? And this was about the all-electric vehicle, or all-electric buildings, excuse me. Yes, I agree. Word to Lackman, back off. And I only read it wrong because then I got a text seconds later. Blakeman, sorry, thought you said Lakeman. Never heard of the guy. Mark writes in, I believe Bruce Blakeman should stay out of the governor's race and let Stefanik roll on her own race against Hochul. I would hope that Trump tells him to back down. I don't know. That's what concerns me. I don't know how much sway Trump may have with a Nassau County Republican. I'm not questioning his bona fides of whether or not he's MAGA or conservative, what he is. I don't know. But it's been pretty clear that Trump wants Stefanik, so I'm not sure. It just seems like he has no problem right now kind of bucking his party. Comment from a different viewer. Frank, I think the reasons the Dems opened the government is because they wanted to fly home for Thanksgiving. That could be as well. Do we have time? We don't have time for another segment. I knew that's how many comments we had in, and I think that was a perfect segment. We've got some other things we're going to go through quickly this morning, but please keep those comments going in. We got about 15 minutes left. We've been talking about the government shutdown. We've been talking about the delay on the All-Electric Buildings Act. Two major issues, one obviously affecting New York, more so than our friends in Pennsylvania and elsewhere. But we also talked about Epstein earlier. We also talked about, I don't even know. We talked about a lot. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Wait. Is that the Corning whistle? Yeah, now it's official.
At Penn State Wrestling, we preach excellence and try and strive every single day to be better than we were the last. It's very clearly resembled here.
It's Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. We're a family.
I can tell he's a wrestler and he supports us. I'm really grateful for that.
You've got to repeat the process so many times to get it right. But once you get it right, you just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it the same way every time, every day without fail. No exceptions. It's like wrestling. The good wrestlers, they really practice hard and work hard.
Blaze Alexander, where champions strive.
You may see a teen struggling to find his way. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we see a teen gaining the confidence and skills to land his first job. You may see a child wrestling with hidden battles. We see a child learning to manage life's twists and turns. And where you may see a distracted teen, we see teens making a difference in their community. Kids today need people to see their potential and help them achieve it. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we do whatever it takes to help kids succeed, from fostering confidence and community to preparing them for graduation and beyond. Because when we see young people, we see limitless possibilities. Do you? Join us, Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So many comments coming in. What a great show. All right. This viewer says, regarding the all-electric mandate, when I heard about it, I thought it was so ludicrous that I didn't take it seriously. Oh, that's a good way. That's a good point, too. So some people snuck up on. Some people probably never heard it happen. You heard it and said that can't be the case. Sadly, now with one-party rule in Albany, if you hear something ludicrous, get ready. It's probably going to be the case. That has sadly been ever since the Albany went full Democrat party and didn't have any kind of firewall like we used to have in the Senate. Everything became fair game. Ken writes in, obviously everyone knows why Hochul's handlers told her to delay implementation of the gas law. Unfortunately for the Dems, they're darned if they do and darned if they don't. Stefanik can still campaign on how much this will hurt New York and can now let everyone know that the Democrats wouldn't have delayed it. And if they could have campaigned on how good it is for New York. She can also say that she will not just eliminate it, she will open up fracking to help New Yorkers' energy costs and availability. Sadly, the low information sheeple won't be able to understand that the Democrats don't care about them, they only care about using them to gain power. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Like Cuomo, he said he was for natural gas, and as soon as he got elected, he stopped all drilling gas in New York State. Hochul is going to try to pull that same scenario. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of trickery. We're going to see it with some of these things being delayed, postponed. We'll also, I'm sure, see another type of inflation, which I still haven't received mine, but inflation rebate check. All right. Comment from a different viewer. What about the electric school buses? Is that starting next year? No, that's not starting next year. This is kind of like the same scenario. That when they start purchasing the zero emission buses, that starts in 2027, where they have to buy only EVs. 2027. And then I think their full fleet has to be somewhere around 2035 or something. But this is what, that doesn't mean like wait on it because, 2027, that's forever ago. I'm not saying you would, but that's kind of what happened with the Electric Buildings Act. That's why I'm so glad that you put it that way. So no, that is not next year, but that also means that this is still should be a major campaign point for Stefanik, another big feather in her cap why you should support her if the EV mandate scares you. Mark writes in, I wonder how many people decided not to come to New York to live or build a new home because of all this electric. Oh, not just individuals. How many businesses didn't come here? How many, and they always talk about we need affordable housing. How many quote unquote landlords decided there is no way I'm going to build a home here or build an apartment complex here, unless I guess it's 7 stories or higher, which obviously in our area doesn't always make sense. So yeah, to me, it's cost us a fortune. Will continue to cost us a fortune unless major changes are made. Comment from a different viewer: if she wins, she will stop with putting gas in new homes, build a new home, and it's full of natural gas items along with a generator. What was that, Stefanik? Sorry, I might have misunderstood that. Don't do as I do, do as I say, says another viewer. Thank you. A couple waves coming in, and okay, I got some other ones coming in. I try not to read live on the air, but we're getting in a great spot here. We got a couple last things. Get your last minute comments in regards to whether it's the government shutdown ending, whether it's the delay in all electric buildings. I've never ceased to be impressed by the viewers, but you were so on top of this from the beginning. So then to have this come out and breaking news yesterday about the All Electric Buildings Act, it's just nice to have these kind of great conversations about it where you're not going to get elsewhere. So I do appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking, getting ready to wrap up today's edition.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Sophia A., grade 4, absent, because transportation was absent.
Julio M., grade 6, absent, because Wi-Fi was absent.
Maria J., grade 12, absent, because childcare for siblings was absent.
Jacob O., grade 12, absent, because housing was absent.
Aisha S.,
Olivia H.,
Darren L.,
Cole W.,
Preston L., absent.
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 Because healthcare, anti-bullying,
mental health support was absent.
We're calling roll on the 15 million absent students.
Their reasons why are very real.
And yet the solution is a present, caring adult to help them along their path.
When communities and schools is present, 99% of our students are present and ready to learn.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm Marcus Strain Corning. Thank you to the viewer who sent in about, and I think this is a great question. I don't want to read all the specifics of what you sent because I just don't know them to be accurate. But remember when people opted out of the smart meters that were attached to everyone's house? Does anybody, are you getting charged? Was that legal? What happened with that? I know they want to charge a monthly fee, but it's crazy to me that we never were charged for them to read the meter. Price was including in the billing. That's a great point. And you had less employees with the smart meters because obviously a lot of meter readers would be fired. But yeah, I don't know. I have not heard of anybody being charged, but that's not to say they weren't. Comment from Mark. Mark writes in, glad the government shutdown is over, and that's a nice birthday shirt. Great show. Have a great day. Yes, that was from our friends Brian and Chris, my birthday shirt. Very nice of them. Frankenstein. Appreciate that. Okay, there's a great... we're not going to have time to get to any more of this. My goodness, I knew it was going to be one of those kind of days. New York City restaurateur has canceled his expansion plans following Zohran Mamdani's victory, saying he's going to go to different areas to expand his businesses. Former Gavin Newsom, chief of staff, was arrested yesterday as part of a corruption investigation, commit bank and wire fraud, among other things. Gavin Newsom, according to The Hill, has emerged as the Democrats' top 2028 pick, and it's not even close. He's the number one contender. I don't know what it is, if it's the snarkiness of the X account that he has, or because, I mean, there's a new documentary or a new movie out about the failed policies, the abandonment of the people of L.A. as it burned, both Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass abandoning L.A. as it burned. So I'm not sure. I think this is a lot just because of the positive coverage he gets from the mainstream media. They want Gavin Newsom to emerge as the leader of the Democrats, I guess. They call him the climate president in waiting. The world wants an American climate leader. They do. They do. And Gavin Newsom is happy to play the part, even if the country he represents isn't quite ready to follow. That's from Politico. I know people have called him out for his hypocrisy on that, what it looks like in California, what they spent on. By the way, California revoked 17,000 commercial licenses given to migrants, but Gavin Newsom denies that immigration was the reason. Okay, that does it, right? Yep. What we talk? Oh, here we go. Opting out of a smart meter replacement is $13 and charged per month. Wow. Thank you for that. I asked, and that's what I was told. Okay, thank you very much. And this is in regards to a lot of the things we talked about. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you. We've been talking so much about New York State issues, and I saw this at the New York Post today. No, New York's bail reform has not made us safer. A new study vindicates its critics because they've always tried to spin on this. The findings of this most recent analysis points in the same direction, and they leave us with another question. Will the politicians in Albany consider changes to bail policy be guided by evidence or by ideology? It's a great piece at the New York Post. Again, the breaking news, if you are just joining us, New York agrees to delay the All-Electric Buildings Act in the court filings. We're not sure how long that delay will be implemented. Also, the government shutdown has ended, and that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the waves. Thanks for having a great time with me this morning. On tomorrow's program, we're going to talk with our buddies from Comic-Con. Kevin and Mike are going to join us again to tell us all about Comic-Con, which is coming up on Saturday and Sunday at the Arnett Mall Event Center. That's going to be a fun event, as always, but there's a couple updates since the last time we talked to them, so I asked if they could stop by and let us know how it's all going. Next week, we're going to be talking to our friend Jo Barlow, and that is on Monday. She's going to tell us about the upcoming holiday chorus with the Crystal Chords, where you rehearse every Tuesday from now until December 9th, and then they perform in the holiday concert on Tuesday, December 16th. So she'll be joining us on Monday. Also tell us about their upcoming holiday craft and vendor fair happening at the Horseheads American Legion on Saturday, November 22nd from 10 till 3. But that's on Monday. Tomorrow, Comic-Con, and all your comments, all your questions, concerns, waves. We're going to have a blast like we did this morning. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. I look forward to it already.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.